Hey there, everybody. New studio, new intro. I'm just here to remind you guys before you listen to today's episode, make sure you follow the show and subscribe wherever you listen. If you watch the show on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there, you comment, you like, and you share. Also, follow my social media, all of it, both Instagrams, my Twitter, follow it all. Your life is to be consumed by my life. Tell everybody that you know about me. Start conversations with the fact that the Smoking Simian is your favorite podcast. Bombard everyone that you know and love with the Smoking Simian. Send them links day in and day out of my show, of the episodes, of my posts. Get thrown out of your house because the only thing that you care about is the Smoking Simian. Do it. Enjoy today's episode. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into the show on a Monday. Right now, it is a Saturday for me. I do work in the restaurant industry, but I do have Saturday nights off and Friday. I have nights off, which is pretty crazy. Those of you who work in a restaurant or have worked in a restaurant or have listened to the show and have heard me talking about working in a restaurant my entire life, it is a rather miserable place and quite a humbling experience just going to work, especially the type of service that I'm required to give now. Because now it's like I gotta kind of go out and fend for myself. You know, that's kind of how the model is at this particular establishment, where it's just a bunch of people who have money on the line. They sit down, they bet money on some event, sort of like I did tonight. We'll get into that soon. They sit down, they do that, and then you just got to kind of walk up on them and ask if they want anything. And, you know, there's something about peddling food and drink to people who are already spending copious amounts of money in the hopes of winning more money to possibly spend on more food and drink. It's like a beautiful cycle because I'm also there to make money so that I could spend money on food and drink. And also try to use that money to win more money like I did. But, yeah, so Saturday night, I got out early and the fights happened. I put some bets in and I won a parlay. I historically was very parlay averse. I was like, no, we can't do the parlay. It's hard enough to win one bet. How you going to win 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8? Well, motherfucker, this is my second parlay that I've won. I haven't lost a ton. I don't do a ton of parlays in general. I usually hedge my bets, but tonight I was feeling good. Marlon Chito Vera, the baddest motherfucker in the UFC. God damn, that's a bad motherfucker. Did you guys see how he head kicked Dominic Cruz? Good God. Broke his nose easily. You watch the replay, his nose actually goes flat. You can see it. You can see it on the replay. The way he swings his head when he fights, it's so interesting, and it's what got him to being the legend that he is of the bantamweight division of the UFC. People still regard him as the best bantamweight ever. You know, he is the epitome of a champion and a martial artist, and he was doing so fucking good against Chito, and I was ready to, I was ready to punch the fucking television watching that shit because Chito takes his time when he fights. He takes his time, and he, eventually he capitalizes on it. Eventually he knows that he can land some crazy, devastating finishing strike or combination or something. He knows that he'll go behind on the scorecards, but he's going to land something bad. He's going to make the right read, and he's going to land something bad. And that's what he did. Dominic Cruz's style is one of the most interesting ever. If you're a new MMA fan, you have to watch him more. You know, that's what sucks. That's what sucks about these, you know, especially fight sports. Fight sports, you see the rise and fall more blatantly than you do in like a team sport. Because a team sport, they can start to bench the guy, they can give him less playing time, Maybe he or she goes to a couple different organizations and whatever else. But with a fighter, you see them start off young, mid-20s, and if they get to be really good, most fighters hit a peak, right? The real good ones that hit some kind of a peak, and they see how long they can ride that motherfucker. And the people who can do that the longest, those are the ones who become the GOATs. But even they, like watching Anderson Silva, now watching him box, oh my God, it's like, it's the best thing in the world for me because I'm the biggest Anderson Silva fan. He had that same kind of thing that, Cheeto put on display. But, at a way higher level and better and yada, yada, yada. But Cheeto knows that he can land that shot. I mean, that kick was fucking insane. But if you want to get into something, if there was some sport that you always wanted to learn a little, like for me, it's racing. I spoke about this before, I watched the Tour de France because I like biking. Although I haven't done much biking around here because there's nowhere to bike and there's no bike lanes. If I'm going to, don't get me started. You guys know I hate this fucking state. But listen, I'm trying to ride my bike on the street and you can't because there's buses passing by 6 inches from you, right from you, people beeping. You can't. There's no fucking biking around here. It's not allowed. No bike lanes. It's the fucking conservatives, the rich fucking tobacco farm magnates. The guys that really run this motherfucking state. They're the ones who don't allow it. But it's okay. I don't mean to get political. It's probably not the whole deal. It's a lot of it, though. It is a lot of it, but not the whole deal. Anyway, Tour de France. Racing. I put a bet on the Indianapolis Indy 500. I almost called it the Indianapolis 500. I actually almost called it the Indianapolis Cup. The Indy 500. I put a bet on that, and I watched it all day. My guy lost, but my point is if there was something that you were ever interested in, just start betting on it. Soon enough, you'll be sitting in front of it, biting your fucking nails, nervously ripping them off, and spitting them on your floor for you to one day vacuum up or sweep up or just happen to notice and not do anything about. Just walk right back. You'll see your nail on the floor, a nail that you spit off nervously because you just lost the last leg of a 32-game parlay that you thought was going to hit, and it almost did. 31 of them hit, and then, boom. That last one, how bad would that be? Oh, God. That would be terrible. See, the parlays I did, I've only done a few of them. I've done some just for fun, right? Normally, I parlay my whole, like if I do straight bets, I'll parlay the whole thing because I already think everybody's going to win anyway. But this one was only 3. The other one I did was 4. So, but yeah, if you want to get horse racing, if you want to be an old miserable fuck, if you're a young person that doesn't enjoy it and you feel like being an old miserable fuck would be good, then you can go ahead and adopt this lifestyle and start betting on horses, which theoretically might be one of the worst things to bet on, right? Because it's, the odds are high anyway across the board. The lowest odds are still pretty high. Lowest odds could be like 3-1, 2-1. That's why it's an old man's game. Old men sit around and they fucking grumble about how they're taking things away. You could smoke in here before, but here's my $4 bet on a 28-1 horse. It'll win me $3,000. Like, that's not true, but that's what the fucking game is. But it is nice to engage in gambling from time to time. I can see how it can be addictive. I can very much, because I got that. I won a pretty penny for a guy like me. I won what I was hoping to make this week, and I didn't come even anywhere close. And I'm actually I took Sunday off because I went and did a show in D.C. And hold on, my phone. Nonsense. Went and did a show in D.C., and, I'm saying it past tense, but I haven't done it yet because it is a Saturday. And traveling for comedy, sorry, guys, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's all the weed that I smoke, that I wrap in cigars and deeply inhale and hold. Maybe that's causing the wheezing and my inability to talk and speak to you guys. I don't know. Maybe it's It could be something else. But traveling for comedy, as of recent, is something that I'm more than willing to do. I don't know if I've actually mentioned it on here yet, but I have lost all hope and desire for stability, monetary decency. I have done. Sorry, I'm watching the boxing match right now, and somebody just getting knocked the fuck down. Espadas got fucking dropped in the first round by a Puerto Rican. Hold on. We got to react live to this. This Puerto Rican kid is coming at him. Jab. Oh, body shot. Left hook to the body. This Espadas he's Mexican, but he's getting fucking teed on. Zayas, the Puerto Rican Zayas. Who knows? If you guys didn't see this fight, which you probably didn't, oh my goodness. Low blow by the Puerto Rican. Ref didn't see it. But he throws the left hook twice to the body. One of them lands on the groin. Oh, man. Oh, left hook up top. Puerto Rican Zayas. He's switching up where the left hook is going. He's throwing it to the body, then he's throwing it to the head. And he's leading with a right hand, and then he goes to the body. Because when you throw that right hand, it leans you over to be able to throw a left hook to the body, left hook to the head. Now, Espadas, he's moving well. He's circling, he's on his bike, they're back in the middle. And Espadas is doing... Oh, he landed a right hand. Oh, wow, they're trading in the middle. Exchange left hooks. Right hand by Zayas. Backs up Espadas. Oh, my goodness, they're trading. Left hook, right hand by both of them. Oh, right hand by Espadas. Right on the nose. Oh, geez. Double left hook to the body by Zayas. He's throwing that mother. Oh, the ref finally stopped it. Low blow. That's like the third or fourth one. Ref's giving him a warning. Oh, right hand by Zayas. Gets out of the way of the other shots. Wow. Great round. Anyway, sorry to have gone off track there. But listen, I no longer am I 1 foot out, 1 foot in of stand-up comedy and this podcast and everything else. It is now my sole purpose is to be funny in every medium that I can, including stand-up comedy and including this fucking show. This show I obviously have a little bit more freedom with. You know, I do put a stress on myself to make it funny because I want it to be funny. And it's also a good workout for me. And plus, me being alone on here, I need to have some kind of competitive advantage. I got to be funny at least. It's very freeing. It's very freeing knowing that, kind of accepting that what's coming with this path that I'm kind of choosing of being an entertainer, I guess, right? Kind of making a career out of entertaining people, both as a stand-up comedian and as a podcaster, and whatever the fuck else that comes along with that. Knowing that there's going to be a long period of eating shit, understanding that, and kind of making peace with the fact that I am going to be in credit card debt. Doesn't mean my credit's going to go down. I can still pay the minimum payments and whatever the fuck else. But I will be in credit card debt. It will be looming over my head. I will be struggling sometimes to pay for, rent or pay for whatever the fuck it is. There are times where I will have to mug a weaker person in the street and take whatever their belongings are and then make them my own. And maybe if they have a gold ring, I can pawn it. And I would clean it with alcohol, make sure there's no residue or anything like that. And then you bring it to the pawn and they give you some money. And now I can eat tonight. That other person, they didn't need it. They already had the ring. They had the ring. They had to have come from something. What, it was their dead spouse that they kept the ring on to remember them by? I don't buy it. Most spouses, most relationships, most marriages, at some point, especially later on down the line, they don't want to remember each other. I mean, they want to be as completely separate. If they could take their rings off, they would, right? Some relations, a lot of marriages later on in life, when they realize that they spent a really long time, they really tolerated a person for a really long time, and they might not even have anything against that person. They want something else but they can't because they have the ring, and they look at the ring sometimes and they're like, God, I wish I could take this. I wish somebody would mug me in the street and take this ring off my finger. And that's where I come in. I come in to save the people who are sick and tired of their spouse and they don't want to remember them by. So I come and rip the necklace off, or I get I could be nice about it. I can first ask and be like, hey, I want your gold. Does it have any emotional ties to anybody? And if you say, oh my God, I was hoping that you could take this shit off me. It reminds me of my wife, who's still alive, and we still live in the same house. We sleep in separate rooms ever since the kids moved out. So if you want, you can take it, and I can say that I lost it at work, and we can move on. And there'll be times where I can finally look at my hands again and not be reminded of the weight that has been given to me by wearing it. So please take it off. And if you do that, then I won't have to mug you. I won't have to. No, okay, hey, listen, that's why I ask first. That's why I ask if you had an emotional attachment to it that you really did care about. I'd have to mug you. I'd have to mug you and take it because I am a struggling entertainer, I'm a comedian, and I'm a podcaster, and I want to grow those things, and I want to be able to live. And this week, I want to eat a 72-ounce porterhouse and top it off with a lobster tail. So please give me your ring now that we've established that you don't care about it. But if you did care about it, and now if I got a different response, then it would be an actual mugging, a classic, give me it or I'll beat you to death. And if someone wanted to fight, then I could beat them over the head with a weapon, and we could move on, and I could go back to being an entertainer and living out my dreams, and that person can just be there because, they wanted to be difficult. They could have just gave it to me. But anyway, it's really liberating. That's another good word. Liberating. Knowing that I will be on a path of death and destruction for as long as it takes me to monetize my ability to make people laugh, and for as long as it takes me to develop the ability to make people laugh that is worth monetizing. That's most important, and that's going to take the longest. That's the longest part, like the first major hump is the hardest one in any journey, right? When you hear what's his name, Munger and Warren Buffett sitting next to each other. I think it was Munger that said it. He's like, you got to make that first 100,000. Make that first 100,000. I don't care what the fuck you have to do for it. Make it and save it and use it to build that first 100,000 is a motherfucker. But once you get it, then you're good to go. And that first 100,000 for comics is being fucking hilarious. Hilarious enough to where you can get paid. You can make money for it. And that's where the fuck I'm trying to head. And it's just good knowing that no, I'm not worried about a job. I'm not worried about health insurance. My health insurance is called Be the Fuck Careful, okay? That's my health insurance. It's called Watch Out. Watch out because you can't afford it, bitch. I'm done on health insurance come next year. My 26th birthday, it's done. I have no health insurance, and I'm going to hear from my family about, hey, you need health insurance. You need this. And I'm going to say, listen, I don't go to the doctor. I don't care. It doesn't matter. What is a doctor going to tell me that I don't already know? No, obviously you got to go to the doctor. You got to take care of your teeth, right? I won't have a dentist. I won't be able to go to a dentist. Just going to be straight at-home remedies forever and ever. I'm not going to have any insurance. This is going to be nothing. I'm going to be fucked. I want to get my teeth whitened. because I have good teeth, though. That's one thing. A dentist, I mean, it's not a waste of money for me because a cleaning is good. You should get a cleaning. But, and I do. I always go to the dentist, twice a year. That's probably why I have good teeth. But they've always said I've had good teeth. I never had a cavity. I just need whiter teeth. My teeth look like dog shit because I smoke cigars filled with weed, and I drink black coffee quite often. Anyway, jumping fully deep, it's pretty much, I've decided that it's my career. I'm doing it to make it my career. I'm doing it to make it my life. I'm not doing it to, say to my friends that I'm a fucking comedian. I'm not doing it. No, this is the path that I've chosen. And I don't have too long to fuck around, okay? That's the way I look at it. I'm 25 now. I don't have too long to fuck around. I have a backup plan. You want to know what my backup plan is? My backup plan is if none of this shit works, I'm going to move to some town, become a fucking firefighter. Okay? Become a firefighter and live a simple motherfucking life. The one that everyone wants me to live. Everyone in my family wants me, this is so down and do this and no. God damn it, I want to be an animal. But if that doesn't work, then hey, we'll be fine. I'll be a fireman. I'll be the oldest fireman in the station. But I don't give a fuck, okay? It'll be what the backup plan is. And, but the traveling for comedy, that's what got me on this whole tangent. Traveling for comedy, like I said, drove to D.C., driving to D.C. tomorrow. It's going to be 7 hours there and then 7 hours back for a 7-minute spot. That's funny. 14 hours of my day is going to be driving for me to do 7 minutes. Unpaid, mind you, unpaid. But I'm doing it because I want to. My plan is to just maraud the Northeast. Just go as ham as I can in the Northeast and just go wild. But I also got an offer to go all the way out to Iowa. Burlington, Iowa, my favorite place. Go all the way out there and tell jokes for 30 minutes, which is something I've never done. I would be a feature act. I would never be booked again because I don't have 30 minutes. But I would get paid for that. I'd have no lodging. I'd only get paid $150. But that's fine, right? I could sleep in my car. I could drive, spend the $150, and it would be. And if I did well, then I could come back. If I bombed, then who gives a fuck? But I'm so willing to do that type of shit. So willing to do that. If I could, for 2 straight weeks, 14 days, be in a different state every day, and I could consistently do that, and I could find a way to pay my rent, I would quit my fucking job. If all I had to do was work 2 weeks, and I could make, I don't know, $1,200, driving all over the place, traveling, whatever, come back, pay for my shit, last another 2 weeks around here, go back out on the road. I would do it. I'd do it. Sounds terrible, but I would fucking do it. And it would be much easier if I didn't have an apartment to pay for. But that doesn't matter. All that I'm trying to say is that I am no longer fucking around with this shit. And this is a long overdue announcement. It's been this way. It's very much been this way. Especially since moving here and everything going sideways and the whole nine. And that's what the fuck it is. That's what it is, motherfuckers. You're going to see me somewhere doing something, God damn it, someday. Or you'll see me nowhere doing nothing. No day. No. It's good. But listen, guys, last episode, I went over an article titled Raising Your Children at the End of the World, right? Something like that. Let me just pull it up. Raising Kids When the World is Ending by Time Magazine. Now, if you didn't watch the episode or you didn't listen to the episode, that's fine. I will fill you in. The article was basically about a parent in modern day who is a child in the 80s and is worried that technology and the cheap entertainment that we have built, especially for children, has become a crutch when it comes to life experience, and a crutch also for parents when it comes to raising their kids, because sometimes you don't, you're done playing with them, or you can't keep up with them, or whatever. Here's an iPad. Watch, videos about dinosaurs, or watch videos about fucking fairies, whatever the fuck you kids watch. Watch that. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Leave me the fuck alone, and do that. And the person who wrote the article was worried that it's taking away the mysteries of the world for children, and that raising them in this type of climate isn't, I don't know, it's not great, I guess. But I didn't get why it was talking about the end of the world. It was kind of a clickbait title. The title didn't really, oh my God, Zayas just dropped Espadas with a right hook from hell, and the ref called it off. Holy fucking Christ. The Puerto Rican Zayas, he wins. I don't know how old he is. He looks like a young guy. God, dude, he fucking rocked Espadas with a right hand. Whew. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. It didn't talk about, I thought it would be like a how-to guide, like what you should do for your kids when you're raising them. It was more like, if you're having a kid now and you're worried about the world ending, it's not anything different than the 80s, because there was the Cold War going and Reagan was the president and whatever else. It wasn't what I expected. I was hoping for, more of like a raising your kids for the apocalypse for dummies, like a real guide that could give parents a hopeful outlook for their children's future. Well, I had the idea last episode while reading it, why not make our own on the show? Why not do that? So, that's exactly what this part of the show is going to be dedicated to today. We are going to figure out a way to raise your children so that when the apocalypse comes, they're ready. They're ready. You don't want your kid still doing arithmetic in a notebook, right? Learning about PEMDAS, learning about Columbus, writing in MLA format, watercolors, building a fucking a race trap, a mouse car. Oh my goodness, a mousetrap race car in woodshop. You don't want your kid learning about that shit. You don't want them hanging out with their buddies, playing baseball at the park, or running around and meeting people and learning about their identities. The apocalypse is coming. You want them to survive, okay? There's room for community, and we'll touch on that definitely. But you want your children to be in the best position to survive the apocalypse. Now, there's plenty of ways that it could happen, right? Plenty of ways that it could happen, but they all result in a similar outcome. Lower, much more scarcity when it comes to resources, right? Lower levels of authority. Authority gets overthrown one way or another. There's the borders are not, won't mean as much, right? Again, depending on any way that it happens, we'll go through a plethora of ways, but the apocalypse could be anything, but it results in a similar thing. People are very, nervous about the future. They're very tense. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. The ways of living have changed tremendously across the board. People are adapting, and when people adapt, in very stressful situations filled with scarcity and anxiety and knowing that there's nobody there that's going to come help you. There's no government anymore. There's no law-abiding body that's going to come and get the bad guys out of the neighborhood. No, 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 no. Not anymore. So now we need to figure it out. We need to figure out what the fuck we're going to do. Now, the world, the apocalypse could come in many ways. It could come in natural disaster, right? It could come in a culmination of natural disasters, right? Or it could just be the climate just changing over time and it being irreversibly, or something from space crashes into this motherfucker. All that, in my mind, lumps into the natural disaster sum of the natural disaster group of the apocalypse coming, right? There's that. There's disease. Okay, we saw that happen. We saw how nervous people were. We saw how nervous people were to go against the status quo, to question things. We saw what governments can do and how people reacted to it. We saw how they can take away people's livelihoods, their way to make money, their way to live, their ways of life just naturally, right? Making sure people can't leave their homes to keep the spread of the disease down. And even though it's been down for a while, keeping it still and threatening it even more and being able to impose different things on people just because of a disease. Now, think about if it's actually alarmingly contagious. People are dying quick, and it's hitting, and it's a really bad, awful fucking disease. One like an I Am Legend. That's possible, right? It's not out of the realm of possibility. There is a whole industry, a whole scientific school of study based on viruses and seeing what works against them, what doesn't. I had Professor Dio on here. Dr. Dio from Brown University. We spoke on here. There's a whole industry on viruses and making them stronger. Gain of function research. You hear Joe Rogan talk about it all the time. That's them seeing how strong, what the fuck, and then it gets released. Boom. COVID. Everybody's got COVID now. Very possible. That could happen, right? Could happen. Next, we have the one that's most possible as of recent. Everybody's worried about nuclear annihilation, nuclear war, any kind of world war. Doesn't need to be nuclear. Just so happens that nuclear weapons are the ones right now that everybody's so scared of. But it could happen in so many years, and we could have weapons that are way worse, right? We could blow past this, no nukes, no Russia, no China, everyone's fine for another 200 years. Another 100 years. Well, in that case, you wouldn't have to worry about your kids. But still, you plant the seed that you want your grandkids to have shade under when the tree comes, okay? That's what you want. You do it for future generations. You start now. But listen, it could be, this is the one that's most nerve-wracking because it could be any day. It could be any day. We're a bad day. It was I spoke about it on here, I think. We're one miscalculation. That was the name of the episode. The UN... The speaker of the UN or somebody in the UN went up and said, hey, we are one miscalculation from nuclear annihilation. And that was the headline of an Insider article or some shit. So it is very much a possibility. That one, bad. Very bad. Of course. Scariest one, arguably. And then another one could be what's the word I'm looking for? The demolition or the falling apart of the world economy, right? The world economy could just collapse. Another one, very nerve-wracking, right? Especially with the U.S. being the biggest player, one of the biggest players in the world economy. Yes, we can all agree on that. If the U.S. economy collapses, a lot of the world economy collapses. Money doesn't mean anything anymore. Jobs, all this shit. That one is pretty... They're all bad, right? They're all bad. There's 4 right there. We named 4 of them. There's natural disasters, which include a plethora of things. There's a virus, an awful virus. There's the collapse of the economy and monetary system. And there's nuclear war or some kind of war of any fucking kind. Now, that brings me back to my initial point. After that, all that happens is the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's global panic. It's worldwide panic. It's opportunity for crime. It's opportunity for mayhem. Okay? It's it's the end of the world. It's the end of the way people live. Okay? And you want your kids to be prepared. And by you teaching your kids in this, I've always said being a teacher is one of the best ways to be a student, because you will also be picking up on these habits and it'll force you to learn about it. Now, the way I thought of this list is it should be kind of a homeschooling method, because, of course, the education system will be nothing, right? If the apocalypse is coming, if the end of the world is really here, the education system will be no more. And you should actually be happy that you're alive to even read a book or learn things, if there's even books around. So one thing that, or the first thing on this list should be farming, okay? You want to get your kids out in those fields, hacking away, planting, all sorts of things, okay? There's two things you should be planting, all right? Food, barter items, all right? Food and barter items. Food, obviously, crops that can last long, right? Crops with a very long shelf life. Crops that you can preserve, you can pickle, you can can, you can jar, you can make sauces out of them. You can do all kinds of things. You can eat well, okay? You need to be able to plant crops, and the kids are the young ones, okay? This is for... This is, and mind you, to even have all this, you need to be in the right place. You need to have a nice big compound, a nice big piece of land, maybe somewhere that you can go out in the woods. This is all another conversation. But for the kids, you got to teach them how to plant crops, edible crops, big garden, as big as you can get it. Then you need to have bartering crops, tobacco, cotton, silk, different types of wood. You got to be able to do these things. Mushrooms, drugs, right? You got to be able to grow drugs. Teach the kids how to grow drugs, okay? This is most important. Teach the children how to grow drugs. If you don't get anything else from this list, this is something that you should be employing this today. Teach the kids how to grow drugs. I'm talking about all of them. Teach them how to grow the coca leaf, the heroin, mix it with the poppy seeds so nobody knows, right? You in case thieves come in, thugs try and come by, then they're picking poppy seeds. They're not getting our heroin, okay? You grow that, the weed, the tobacco, you grow it all. Plus, textiles and wheat and other things, and whatever. You do that shit too. But you got to teach them. You got to teach them the farming. You got to teach them the ways to till the land, the types of soil, the watering schedules. Get all this shit prepped for them. You're the teacher now. This is how you're going to prepare them for the apocalypse, the end of the world. Whichever way it comes, this is the first step. Teaching the children how to plant and farm. Most importantly, drugs. Next most important, arguably, teaching your children how to perform medical procedures, okay? You're the adult. You want your children to take point when it comes to combat situations, but you can't, okay? You can't. I mean, you can, right? It's the end of the world. It is but this is for parents who care about their children, okay? So you're obviously, if you're going to take these precautions, the right ones, by the way, if you're going to take these seriously, then you, of course, will be the one orchestrating any kind of combat situation, which we'll get onto later on. And, you might be the one taking a bullet, and your children might be the ones sending the follow-up shots, which is good. That's what you want. But you might be the one taking the bullet. Or, somebody might get hurt out in the field while they're tilling the land, or while you're building something. You might get hurt. You need to teach the pharmaceutical makeup of certain drugs, the chemical makeup of certain drugs on the market. Now, can you make them in the house? You get a nice chemistry lab working. You teach the kid, can you recreate Tylenol? Can you recreate different kinds of drugs, okay? Now, I get what you're thinking, guys. I get what you're thinking. You just want, you're leading your children to make drugs. Okay, sure, maybe. But listen, in the apocalypse, drugs hold a very specific place. These drugs in particular, pharmaceutical drugs, you need them, right? You're going to need them at certain points. You might get bit by a rattlesnake or something if you're living out in the desert somewhere. You might have, something might happen. You're not going to have access to hospitals anymore, pharmacies. They're going to be done, okay? They're going to be done. And we'll find later on we got other ways that we can get those, pharmaceuticals. But this is important too, because then if they learn what these drugs do, they can grow different kinds of herbs and have holistic remedies, right? Holistic stuff. But they have to practice suturing and fixing compound fractures and tightening up bullet wounds and cleaning out the wound. You got to teach them these things because it could happen, right? You got to show them how to realign a nose if it's been broken. This is what the children need to know, guys. This is what they need to know. Next, now this is a homeschool and it is very hands-on. Now we've hit science. We've hit science in a couple different ways, right? Now we're going to need to learn some history, okay? We're going to need to learn some history, and what we're going to be learning is we're going to be watching tape of the greatest generals and war sequences that we can find. We're going to watch them as greatly as often as we can and as intently as we can. We're going to have notebooks. We're going to talk about what we learned afterwards. And the reason being is because in the apocalypse, in the Armageddon, you will be in a lawless land, okay? There won't be police. There won't be any type of governing body to help you. There's no law and order system anymore. There's no punishment. Law and order is what you have in your hands at the moment. Is it a bat? Is it a knife? Is it a gun? Is it a bomb? Is it a vehicle? Okay? You need to be able to defend yourselves. And the best way to do it is to have plans, strategic structures put in place, entrances that lead to right into your plot, because you only have yourself and the community that you build in the apocalypse. This is something you got to teach the kids. You only have yourself and the community that you've built. So hopefully you can find some like-minded people in the area that can watch different areas. That's a different story. You teach networking and whatever else. But you're going to be watching, Eisenhower organizing, his teams, his Air Force, right? Going out on, and you're going to mimic it. You're going to try and mimic it, and we're going to come up with, this is kind of a history art, because it's going to be a lot of drafting. You're going to need a lot of positioning, right? A lot of architecture when it comes to building these structures and the way you want your compound to be. Because really what you're doing is you're teaching your children how to build a compound and have a plan. And then if they find the right one and they want to go on and move to their own little end of the world bunker, then they can pass it on to their children. This is the point, guys. We want longevity in the apocalypse, okay? We want to be able to keep this shit rolling, all right? Now, this history class is going to be crucial, okay? Because you will be practicing these maneuvers at some point. And that's going to come more with the physical education of the whole thing. Kind of like gym class. It's going to be, instead of dodgeball and flag football, it's going to be military maneuvers and kind of scripted run-throughs of bad case scenarios. So that's kind of the history you're going to be learning, right? You're going to be learning that. Next, you'll have communications class. communications class will be done on. Now, this is going to be a little different because you never know what will happen, where the power grid is, and how you'll be able to communicate. If the internet is still a thing and you can communicate with people that way, perfect, right? This is going to be a little different, right? It's, traditionally you'd probably go through a ham radio setup, right? You can get a little ham radio set up, get the kids going on that. That's probably a great thing to do, right? Get them working on that. Tech, right? Some tech. And because, again, the grid might be down, the power lines might be down. You might not be able to use your cell phone, the Wi-Fi, the networks and the whole thing. And fuck all that anyway. You don't need it anyway. So fuck all that shit I said before. Communications class is a ham radio. You're going to learn how to do that. You're going to connect with a bunch of people throughout the day. You're going to hear about what they're doing, what their plans are. And now you got eyes all over the place. You got friends in high places. That's what you need. So there's communications class. Now we're going to get to some of the physical education, okay? Now it's time to start doing some chores around the compound. We got to start building a fence. Start building a fence, building a wall in some capacity, okay? It's got to be strategic. You got to be able to see it from anywhere in the area, okay? So this is physical education. This is lifting. This is strength and conditioning. This is fun, all right? We're having fun. Maybe we got some music on. We can stop whenever we want. We're not going to do it often, okay? Because the apocalypse doesn't stop for anybody, all right? But it's good to know that we can, all right? It's good to know that we can relax here and there, drink a sip of lemonade. Well, maybe, if we got lemonade. And, and then it's a lot of chores, okay? It's a lot of that. It's a lot of building structures throughout the whole compound, right? We need high areas. We need, sheds and barns and places to keep our, tobacco drying and our drugs, fermenting, and where we'll hide some of our hunting meat, which will also be part of physical education. You got to hunt. You got to go out and catch something, whatever it is. You got to go fish, hunt, gather something, because we're going to be doing a lot of drying. So culinary will come into this. There'll be some home ec, right? There'll be some home ec where you can show the kids how to dry. You can show the kids how to eat the rations that the military gets, because there'll be a lot of those. Show the kids how to get into a can of something if you don't have a can opener around, which you will. Christ, it's the end of the world, but God, you will have a can opener, I would hope. But you teach them. You teach them everything, guys. You get it all out. And then what else? Modifying your vehicles. You got to be able to modify your vehicles. You got to be able to have big tires on your vehicles, armor them up, have maybe top holes where you can stick your head out and shoot, because you're going to need to take those on raids. You're going to need to take those on raids in the closest areas that you can find where you've heard that there's still resources at. A Walmart, and these are where you can get those drugs. You can get the drugs, you can get the food, and you can get a lot of stuff at a place like that. So you need multiple vehicles with plenty of armor, plenty of protection, and plenty of space, because you want to be able to take as much shit as you can as often as you can. So that's important. Then it's time to learn about weaponry, and also as a part of physical education, fighting in combat. You got to learn how to shoot a gun. Target practice. Target practice may be kind of like recess, okay? Especially if you got kids who would be in high school, where they would be killing their classmates anyway. So you want to teach them so that if they were in that, then they would do A-okay. So that's important. You got to have, you got to make time in the day for actual hands-on combat situations. So as you can see, guys, this list is pretty extensive. I mean, I can keep going, but you really break it down between two things, okay? There's
learning about a certain discipline and then going and actually performing it, okay? But they need to do both, all right? They have to learn how they can grow, how they can grow amphetamines or something like it right next to corn so that they don't intertwine and you can eat the corn and you're not hopped up on shit and you can get the medicine to other people. They need to know these things, and they only know that if they got to be a jack of all trades is what I'm saying. And listen, guys, in the end of the world, I mean, you're going to want to be doing this, okay? This is what your days are going to be. There's not going to be, let's go out to Applebee's and then catch a movie, okay? There's not going to be that. So you might as well get the jump on it now. Now, I'm not saying, I know I come on here and I fuck around and I talk about the end of the world, and I'm not saying it's going to happen soon. I know I've said 40 years, and that's plenty of time to start the kids on it, okay? If I had a kid today and the world ended in 40 years, I'd be 65. My kid would be 40, okay? It would be well and good. And if my kid had a kid at 25, his kid would be, 15? That kid's ready to go, okay? That kid, a 15-year-old that is raised in the third generation of a doomsday prepper, I mean, come on. That kid is getting high marks in his homeschool class. But I think that is a lot more helpful, okay? I think that list there it's infinitely more helpful, okay? And I didn't even get into bug out locations and the whole thing, but you could totally break it down into a legitimate curriculum to just be ready for when the shit hits the fan, guys. That's what that article should have been. How come I'm not published in time? Hey, somebody make a call to the CEO, the editor-in-chief of Time magazine, and get me on there. Get me on. I could type all that out. That's fine. I could type it out. I'll make it a little more organized. This was off the cuff, guys. This was talent, okay? This was talent. This was getting it out there. This is the first draft. Let me go through it. Let me write it. Let me edit it a few times. This is a Time magazine. This will win anything that an article can win. Any award that an article can win. I don't know if there is any. This one would win it. I'm telling you guys. You guys don't want to believe me. But that's what the fuck it is. And that's how you keep kids occupied. Not using, not using social media as a crutch. Not using YouTube and all these things as a crutch. Now it's a learning tool. It has to be a learning tool. If you drive home the fact that YouTube is only a learning tool and that it's only there for you to live longer in this hellscape that we've made for ourselves as humans, then they'll do better, guys. We'll have a better spew of humans on the other side. Maybe. Or it just wipes us all out anyway. It's a big comet. It's a big meteor. Kablammy. Then all that prepping, all that shit, it's out the window. Out the window. That's why, guys, I have adopted the absurdist mindset. I haven't spoke about it on here in a while, but I have really, I think that's what's gotten me to dive deep into being a comic, like I was saying earlier. It's all so preposterous. Our very existence, guys. I know some of you don't think about it that often. And I know some of you come on here to not think about it. And some of you come on here to think about it. Because that's how I live. I blatantly expose some of the most absurd things. That's what my comedy is. That's what I do. That's what I come on here for. And sometimes you want to be exposed to it. But only for the hour that you listen to me. And that's if you listen to me for the whole hour. Then you turn it off and you go back to whatever construct that you've existed in. You go back to your job, or you go back to your family, you go back to your house, you go back to your neighborhood, you go back to your gym, you go back to your group that you guys do, whatever you guys do. And you don't really, it just kind of goes to the back of your mind how weird it is. How incredibly and infinitely strange it is that we are a bunch of 2 feet walking beings, right? Just sentient beings that can exist on their own. And we've all been placed on this one big landscape, okay, where you look up and it never ends. You look up at the sky and it just never ends. Doesn't that seem weird? Just a little bit, right? You're able to just look up and it never ends. And there's nothing that you can touch. There's nothing that you can feel, right? You can feel, you know when you're in a cloud, I get it, but you can't touch the sky. You can't. It's not tangible, but you know it's there, and you stare at it, and you know that you'll never, ever, ever get close to it. Isn't that just weird enough? Now you add in the fact that we're a bunch of animals that have, we're a bunch of beings whose minds work in such strange ways. We do things that we know are bad for us, but we keep doing them because they make us feel good. We don't do the things that actually make us operate better. Right? We're not like the other animals in that way. We have emotions. We have feelings. We think a lot. We think so completely different from the other animals that we've created our own wild. The other animals were born into a wild that the early versions of us were also born into. And now we've gotten to a point where we've created our own wild, a wild that requires us to do something every day or most days in order to receive something that allows us to live, right? Going to work, making money, being able to pay for things. That's what we do. And we walk around. And there's so many different ways to do that. There's so many different ways to exist within the wild that we've created for ourselves. There's so many ways to be successful at it. There's so many ways to be a loser at it, I guess, in whatever term you want to call it. There's so many ways to be unsuccessful at it, okay? And then you add in the fact that who calls you unsuccessful? Who calls it successful, right? I mean, the general consensus is that a homeless person was probably unsuccessful at life. But it might not be a question of success, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. The point that I'm getting at is that everything we do is so strange. You remember when you were a kid and you were watching a cartoon and they had aliens and they came down with a bunch of food and the humans were like, oh, God, you guys eat that? I would always look at it from the opposite, like the alien coming down and saying, you guys eat that? That shit looks like worms, right? Looking at spaghetti. That shit looks like worms. What is that? You know, that's what I've always thought. It's all so absurd, right? And the fact that it could all go out in the blink of an eye. And I don't mean the end of the world. I mean just your existence. This sentient being that's here talking and speaking or listening or driving or doing whatever the fuck that they're doing, existing, can cease to exist. Why worry about anything that goes on in between? Anything that goes on in between is a plus, because before it, there was nothing, and after it, I mean, we don't know, but as far as we know, it seems like there's nothing, right? It seems like whatever it is completely different than what we're doing, right? Whatever we're experiencing right now, we are under the assumption that once this is over, the next thing is completely different. I shouldn't have said that it's nothing. Sorry guys, that's my atheism bleeding through. But we all think that once this life is finished, something else happens. And maybe it does. And maybe it's not different than this. Maybe it is different than this. Maybe it's infinitely different than this. Maybe it's fucking nothing. Who the fuck knows? All that matters is what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is weird as fuck. Okay? It's weird as fuck. I just described it to you. It's strange when you look at it that way. And all of it is, though. All of it is. Now, what some people say is unconventional or weird is what other people will say is normal, right? Like, to me, 40-hour work week, waiting till the nighttime to be able to hang out and have fun or do whatever you want or pursue some passion that you enjoy, waiting for the nighttime and then the weekend to do that, and, living a life where you can't do what you want whenever you want, even though you might make a little bit more money, which may in turn this is a paradox, it's a whole thing, but you get what I'm saying, not being chained to something, right? I think that it's strange. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be chained to some place, some, certain location or to some company or whatever, I want to have autonomy. And for some people, they look at that and they're like, you're going to drive all the way to Iowa for $150 to do, to tell jokes to a bunch of people you don't, to just, it would be, they'd be like, you're a fucking lunatic. Yeah, I guess I am. But what you're doing to me, I would say is lunacy as well. So it's all strange, guys. Never feel... when I fell apart at the age of 22, after thinking I was going to be an advisor and all those things kind of just crumbled, and all those ideas of me having a real job and being a professional person or whatever the fuck, living out the dream that my family wants for me instead of the one that I want. And not really figuring out what I want, being in a state of limbo for a year or a year and a half or however it was, and just feeling like a loser, not knowing what the fuck I was going to do with my life. And, that whole thing happened, and it took that experience for me to take on this new idea of understanding that it can all be waxed in some way. And I don't mean, again, I know death and dying is always an undertone in the show. And I don't mean that. I mean waxed like plans can change. Things can change. Things, mindsets change. Do you want to be the same person you were so many years ago and whatever else? Like, you obviously want to evolve. Not to get preachy on you, but whatever experience it is there might be a beneficial way of thinking on the other end. There might be. Maybe not, right? Maybe the fuck not. But I think I've said my piece tonight, guys. I've had enough. I've gone on. I've lost track of what I was talking about multiple times throughout this episode. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. I'm tired. I'm ready for bed. I am driving 7 hours tomorrow to D.C. to do 7 minutes and then driving 7 hours back. Yippity motherfucking doodah, guys. Thank you for playing along. Good night. Good morning.
Hey, I'm back to reiterate all the stuff that I said at the top of the show. Follow and subscribe. Bye-bye.